Hello everyone, and welcome back to Dutiful Future. In case you didn't notice, there's been a bit of news recently involving a certain Liz. It's been a pretty big deal. I don't know if you guys have managed to notice, but got a new Prime Minister, Liz Truss. What a world. And also, Queen Elizabeth II has recently passed away, and it has made the UK go a little bit insane.
And at 6:30 this morning, you, Elizabeth, had already been through the cathedral. How many times?
Maybe 5.
How many times have you been through now? Let's see your wristbands.
7, but they're letting me through on the ones I have.
Perhaps, most of all, the police. The ceremonies mourning the Queen's passing are currently underway. And alongside them has been several protests against the monarchy's existence. Now, if you're familiar with my content at all, you'll know that I'm not the biggest fan of the monarchy ever. In fact, I'm famous for saying that Buckingham Palace should be turned into the world's fanciest Costco. Or maybe something useful like a food bank. I'd prefer the Costco. However, this video is not going to dive into any of the arguments for or against monarchy. I will do my best to make all of my points in a way that anyone can get behind. Obedience served to hierarchical politics, or not. The issue I want to talk about is how the police have been responding to these anti-monarchy protests. The heavy-handedness of the police was first drawn to my attention when a young man was arrested for heckling Prince Andrew, calling him a sick old man, before being drowned out by cries of God Save the Queen. For those who somehow don't know, Andrew was actually relinquished of his royal duties after some alleged Epstein-y dodginess. This protester was then removed from the scene and arrested for, quote, disturbing the peace, as if the year was 1520 and a woman had just done some maths. I don't need to explain how this is a phenomenal breach upon this man's free speech. A simple act of protest that led to him getting arrested with a charge straight out of the days when horses were our only source of transportation. Not only this, but we also see in this other angle several members of the public violently throwing him out of the crowd, or he is eventually dragged away by the police.
Disgusting! Wait, I've done nothing wrong.
I saw one argument defending this arrest on Twitter, which was along the lines of, well, let's say you're at a football match between two bitter rivals, let's say Rangers versus Celtic. Let's say you're a Celtic fan, loudly cheering for your team while sitting in the Rangers side. You're going to get removed from this section, and no one's going to cry boo-hoo free speech. I mean, sure, that is what would probably happen, and that's probably the smart thing to do, but that isn't what happened here. Even if you think that he should have been removed from the procession for disturbing the ceremony, there is still no reasonable justification for him being arrested and charged, apart from the fact that it hurt your little baby boy feelings. This is a classic example and demonstration of how right-wing voices will weaponize the concept of free speech, one that I, as a left-wing person, actually value very highly. They will cry day in and day out about woke this and PC that, limiting their free speech rights. But as soon as someone tries to use their free speech to actually challenge societal norms, they piss and shit themselves and call for Big Daddy Police to stomp them down. This isn't the only case of this happening as well. There were protesters holding up blank sheets of paper, signs and banners, as according to the protesters, police had told them if they'd written "Not My King" on them like they intended to, they would have been arrested under the Public Order Act, as someone might be offended. That's a shame. The Public Order Act was introduced in 1986 and was intended to penalise the use of violence and or intimidation by groups or individuals. It wasn't meant to stop you from putting a fucking Twitter hashtag on a sheet of paper. And this wasn't just threatened as well. Here is a video of someone who had "Not My King" written on a sheet of paper being arrested by police. These are basic acts of protest, and the fact that the police are so comfortable with crushing it is a worrying sign for the state of our democracy. The right to protest is crucial to any functioning society, And if all it takes is the passing of one 96-year-old woman to see it be washed down the plug hole, we should all be very concerned for our society and our political health. The fact that such a minor statement against the royals can be cracked down on so heavily is really, really concerning for the future of British political discourse. Whilst we can all joke and kid about how funny it is that the monarch is inspiring everyone to go a little bit mental, I do think that there is a serious issue. It's very clear that this monarchical sentiment can be galvanized and weaponized by the worst possible people. Many people defend police crackdowns on these protests, all in the interest of respect for the Queen. If that's all it takes to justify the growing of a police state, then I think any of us who are concerned with British democracy should be very concerned. I have long joked that the Queen's passing would turn the UK into a temporary fascist state, with restrictions to public entertainment, enforced wearing of black outfits, yada yada. Whilst this was supposed to be nothing more than a funny bit, it appears that I am once again cursed with the gift of prophecy, and it has become, maybe slightly less hyperbolically, true. And not to get all anti-monarchy, like I promised I wouldn't in the beginning, but I do think that this sort of is one of the arguments against having a passionate societal-wide obsession with a certain group. It really can lead to people justifying awful state control and state enforcement. Like I said, people are very comfortable justifying police crackdowns on very simple and just not very disruptive protests just because, hey, it's about the monarch. So this has been just a quick summary of how the police are cracking down on protests in the UK. I think it's a very concerning sign for the future of our politics, and I think it's one that it would be very important to keep an eye on going forwards. And I think perhaps after this time of national mourning, when people maybe are a little bit less freaking out, it's something that we really need to address as a nation, because if all it takes is the death of the death of a monarch to totally scrap our protest rights, we should be very concerned for the future of our discourse. So yeah, thank you all for watching. This was not one of my most cheery videos, but as a left-wing person who cares a lot about free speech, I feel like this is a very, very important issue to shed some light on. If you want more coverage on this, please do let me know. I can do a live stream going over some of the developments as things goes on. That could be quite fun. Oh well, fun. As fun as something as awful as the development of a police state can be. Also, please do let me know in the comments if there's anything else you'd like me to cover in the political role. Don't forget, of course, to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. And do please keep an eye out for when I'm streaming here on YouTube for a more chilled out, fun experience than this video in particular. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. That's it.